Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the one and only Rock and Wrestling Podcast. Glorious, no, I won't give in till I'm victorious, and I will defend. From far and wide and light years away, cast from the shadows, and I light my way. You think you know me? I'm just a sexy boy. Oh, I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy. I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. Without further ado, from parts unknown, your host with the most, Nick. I am a real American. Fight for the rights of
All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Rock and Wrestling Podcast. I told you last week that I have a big guest, and I do have a humongous guest this week. Is none other than ECW original Just Incredible. If you're not familiar with Just Incredible, which I'm sure many of you are, he was first in the WWE as Aldo Montoya, and then he became Just Incredible in ECW. He's been in the business for over 20 years. I sat down with him this past weekend over the phone, so you're getting a second phone interview in a row, and we just talked everything about how he's doing. We really wanted to get him on here to talk about his documentary coming out about his life, some of his struggles in the wrestling business with addictions that he's had, but it's phenomenal interview. He gave me some great stuff about it, starting at the Heart Camp and then moving into WWE, moving into ECW. Really, some guys talk very highly of him. So we got into a lot in, a good 30, 40 minutes. So can't wait for you to hear that as well. Make sure that you're following the podcast on the Twitter, Nick's RW Podcast, Instagram, Rock and Wrestling Podcast, Facebook, Nick's Rock and Wrestling Podcast. On YouTube, find the YouTube channel, Rock and Wrestling Podcast, and Instagram, as I mentioned, all of the social medias. Give me a follow. Also, I want to give a couple shout-outs here. I forgot to do this last week. A couple people bought some T-shirts. I want to give a shout-out to my man, Joey Nizik, buying a shirt. My main man also giving me a review on the iTunes, Big J Husk, man. Got to represent there, so thanks for that. Also, my man, Brendan Hyde, buying a T-shirt as well. Forgot to give him a shout-out, man. Should have done it last week since it was closer to his birthday. But hey, anyways, thanks for supporting the show. Make sure you go over to ProWrestlingTees.com, Rock and Wrestling Podcast store. Get your official Rock and Wrestling Podcast t-shirts, long sleeves, tank tops. They're all there. So definitely go help a brother out and buy a t-shirt, tank top, whatever you can. Follow on social media, all of that good stuff. I want to thank for the great response to last week's episode with the Patriot. A really cool guy, really good story. Make sure you help support him and go buy his DVD that is out right now. It's been out for about 3 years. Great documentary just about his time in the wrestling business, his time playing college football, and just his life in general. So we're kind of going with a theme here these couple of weeks, guys that have documentaries coming out. Just Incredible has a documentary coming out very shortly. He's got kind of like a GoFundMe and some other stuff to kind of get the backing behind it so they can release it. So definitely go help support him. And the best way to support him is going over to Pro Wrestling Tees, just like you would do for my shirt, and go buy his. He's got this killer new shirt that's kind of, we talked about it in the interview about how he kind of took the Bullet Club logo and he made it kind of his own with kendo sticks and everything. So I just bought one this week. Go get yourself a Just Incredible t-shirt. Help support that man out, because he definitely can support. He's a great guy, very personable, very, very cool. So I can't wait for you guys to hear that interview. So for the rest of the show here, what will happen is we'll go into the Just Incredible interview shortly, and then we will go into a little Backlash preview, as I have done consistently for the last few months. As there's a pay-per-view approaching, I will do a little preview. I'll go match by match and give some predictions and everything along those lines. So I did, obviously, the Royal Rumble. I've done an Elimination Chamber, a Fastlane, a WrestleMania. I did a whole show on WrestleMania. If you didn't get a chance to, go back and check that out in the archives. But also, I'm going to do a Backlash preview. This is the first co-branded pay-per-view the WWE is doing. They're doing all pay-per-views are co-branded now. So we'll get into that on the back half of the show. But I also want to give you kind of a heads up of what's coming up in the coming weeks, the guests I have lined up. So this week is just incredible. Next week is a huge guest. If you watched the Greatest Royal Rumble event, you saw some WWE tryouts in the ring, and essentially one of them, called Mansoor, is going to be my guest. I'm going to sit down with him over the phone this weekend, and we are going to discuss everything, his time in the wrestling business, the WWE now signee that he is. So we're going to do that over the weekend. He'll be next week's episode. The following week, I'm going to also sit down this coming week with Jarvis from the band Night Demon. They are an LA heavy metal band. I actually have personally met Jarvis one or two times. My former band Motorized played a show with them here in Sacramento it's probably been about almost 4 years ago. We played with them when they were on tour with Raven. So we're going to sit down and talk about them. They're really blowing up. They just toured Europe with Accept. They've been touring Europe for a while, so it's going to be great to chat with him. He'll be the following week, which is May 16th. The following week after that, I'm going to have the lead singer from It Lives, It Breathes. Once again, going to give them a shout out. They're the guys who created my intro music, the theme song for this podcast. Going to do him. That'll be the following week. And that'll kind of going to get you the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks here. So we're going to have next week, as I pull up my calendar and look at my calendar. So next week will be May 9th, will be Mansoor. The following week, May 16th, will be Jarvis from Night Demon. And May 23rd is going to be the lead singer from It Lives, It Breathes. Kind of giving you an overview of the coming weeks here to some awesome guests. If you were following me on the Twitter, you know I announced I have some big things in the works. I can't officially announce anything yet. In a couple of weeks, most likely right around the May 16th episode, I will be announcing the big news that I have pertaining to this podcast. And it's going to be huge. I thank everyone for supporting me. So it's going to be big news, but I can't quite announce it just yet. I have to hold off. You big diehard wrestling fans probably know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to quite make the official announcement, as that was kind of part of the agreement to wait till that week. So I will wait till then. But coming up shortly here is going to be just incredible, and I just want to give a little, pretext about this interview. I'm not doing a whole lot of editing on the interview. You'll see that, Justin was really cool. He just talked about his time in the business, kind of everything along those lines. It's kind of raw and uncut. There's a part where you may hear some audio dip out. I'm leaving it in there because I think it's raw and cool. One of the things that I compare doing this podcast to is my favorite rock and roll bands and my favorite rock and roll albums are albums that are really raw and uncut, like not a lot of editing. Not everything's going to be super polished. It doesn't need to be super polished. So I'm kind of leaving this uncut. I'm leaving it as it is. You'll hear it. You'll hear Justin explain that he kind of lives in the woods in Connecticut, so he doesn't get the best signal. So it kind of cuts out for a few minutes, but it's cool. You'll also hear him talk about, hey man, I got to go. Let's do a part 2. So I kind of kept it real raw and uncut, and he just talked for a long time there. So I hope you enjoy this interview. It's really cool. He was, for me as a big time wrestling fan, it's just kind of cool to sit down. Dude, I watched this guy on ECW. I watched him when ECW went bankrupt and he was in WWE. So it was very, very cool. He was very, very generous with his time. So I hope you enjoy this interview. So coming up on the other side is just incredible.
I'm here with my guest. I'm gonna go with your wrestling name, Just Incredible.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me, man. I really appreciate it.
No, it's the honor is mine. I appreciate you having me. We all work together in this crazy industry. One hand washes the other. We help each other out. We promote each other, and we keep it there. The WWE always totes their universe. Well, there's an indie wrestling universe, and we got to keep it alive. So, no, it's pleasure's mine, dude. So let's have some fun.
All right. So what I like to do with all my guests is you're a big star, obviously, from back in the 90s. How did you kind of get into wrestling? Were you always a fan, or was it something that you into? I know that you had a relationship with kind of Lance Storm and Chris Jericho. So how did you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it started. Okay. Do you remember the rabbit ears, the black and white TVs?
Yep.
Do you remember? Okay. Literally, that's what I have, and I live in Connecticut, born and raised, still do. And we used to get WWF TV on Saturday mornings. And I had my own bedroom, and my mom and dad had the color TV. So, I'm the kid. I get the black and white with but WWOR Channel 9 was the New York station. And I'd never watched wrestling before. And I tuned in one Saturday morning. I don't know, Mike, it's some cartoon, because remember Saturday mornings are like the big cartoon mornings back in the day. I tuned in to watch Hulk Hogan pin the Iron Sheik. And then forget it. That was it. That was my heroin. That was my drug right there. I was like, that is what I need to do with my life. And I fell in love. I fell in love ever since. Love the business and haven't turned back. And it's even funnier how I got in, and it's almost a follow-up question to what you probably would ask is, in my day, and it's still the days of the territory days, there was no internet, nothing like that. And the business, back then you got kind of, you were either born into it or somebody would find you. You know what I mean? It wasn't like traditional, like every corner street has a wrestling school somewhere nowadays, right? Back then it wasn't like that. I was 16 years old, working as a bag boy, literally bagging groceries at my local supermarket. And I used to read all the After magazines because they would always come in, and I would see, Abdullah and Bruiser Brody and, Flair bleeding. And I was like, oh my God, this stuff looks so like intense. And, I was a dumb kid. I was a mark. But one edition of Inside Wrestling had a long one-page advertisement. It said, "Dare to be great, Hart Brothers Pro Wrestling," and it showed a picture of Brett and Owen, Keith, Bruce, the Hart family. And there was a freaking number on it. Because then again, there was no www. There were no .coms. There were numbers, and I.
Still there? Did we lose you?
Hear me? I'm sorry. I'm right here, dude. You hear me?
Okay. Yep.
No, I'm so sorry. I'll try to get into a better place. I live in kind of the woods, so it's hard to get a good reception. We should have probably done this through Skype, but nonetheless, if you could hear me, I spoke to Bruce Hart, and he said, well, when you graduate high school, you have $3,000. We'll come up to Calgary and we'll train you to be a pro wrestler. So I graduated high school. I saved up $3,000 and bought a plane ticket to go to Calgary. And when I went up there, dude, I didn't know anybody. They put us up in a small town called Okotoks, Alberta, which is about 45 minutes out of the mainstream Calgary area. stayed above a strip club, like in some ratty crack hotel kind of thing. Oh yeah, classic. But listen, 12 men entered to the Heart Camp. 2 graduated. It was an 8-week program because they would bump you. They would make you do 500 squats. They'd make you run till you puked. And that's even before you ever got in the ring. And Jericho and Storm, Lance, were there the year before me. So I got to work with Chris, his very young days. I think Chris Jericho was my 5th ever professional match. Lance Storm was like probably 7 or 8. But that's how it started, dude. I had my first 10 matches out in Calgary, and then literally I was starving. I was putting up rings and stuff, but I wasn't getting paid. My money ran out. I was too proud to call home and ask my parents to send me money, because I wanted them to think, I was okay. You know what I'm saying? Your son's doing good. So I went up there 2:30, gassed to the gills, all jacked up, dude, and I left 180 pounds, starving. I would steal $1.30 from Keith Hart's house for milk. And that's what I would eat. Chocolate, like a gallon of chocolate milk was my food for the day. That was my caloric intake, because there was no money, I paid the hard dues, and then I had to come back to the States. I was starving over there. It was just ridiculous. I did my first 10 matches professionally in Calgary, worked with some great guys, like I said, Jericho, Storm, some old school guys from New Japan that passed through Calgary. And then, I live in Connecticut, born and raised. I literally, somewhere, somehow, I had the idea of let me go to a WWE house show and just introduce myself. Like, I was so naive, I said, let me go there and introduce myself and see if, they always say, bring your bags, kid. If you're going to go to a show, bring your gear. Because you never know, right? Somebody might not show up, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, I brought my gear. I pulled into the New Haven Coliseum, and I met Tony Gurria. I said, Mr. Gurria, sir, my name is Peter Polacco. I'm a pro wrestler. I was trained by the Hearts. He goes, really? I said, yeah. He goes, which ones? I said, well, Keith and Bruce. And, oh, really? And he was very kind to me. And he let me watch the show from the backstage area. They didn't need me that night, obviously. I didn't work, but after I wanted to thank him for, treating me so nice and letting me watch the show for free, and you know what I mean? And he said, oh, by the way, where do you live? I live right here in Connecticut. He goes, well, so do I. Well, son, we're starting a new show every week live in Manhattan called Monday Night Raw. We may need some extra talent. Would you be interested? And the rest is history. Literally, that's how it happened. I had 10 indie matches before I went to WWE. Crazy. Right place, right time. Right place, right time, right location. You know what I mean? Like, shit was just happening at the time. And I was just in the right, I lived right near Stamford, 40 minutes from Stamford, an hour and a half from New York City. Business wasn't great. It was the Ica Pro era. Remember that? Ica Pro stuff?
Yes.
So, like, they were hurting financially, so they wanted cheap talent, guys they didn't need to fly in. I could drive everywhere, I'm like, young kid, I got a car. I'll drive, and you're going to pay me $200 to wrestle? Really? Fuck, I'm in. And then I started just working squash matches. But guys started to like me because I had a little bit of talent, I could get guys over. I was very easy to work with. I could make them look like $1 million. And Stone Cold Steve Austin and I did his latest edition of his podcast that him and I did, and we've done two, but the latest one we talk about that. It's like some guys are meant to be main event guys, but there's nothing wrong with being a good hand because that's an art in itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize Randy Orton, I was his first live television match. Dave Bautista, I was his first live television match. Shelton Benjamin, another one. CM Punk, the most famous one. And there's a reason. And he goes, yeah, kid. And, Steve goes, yeah, kid, there's a reason for that. Because you're goddamn good, and they know they could trust you to get those guys over.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
it's like the movie business, dude. It's not real. Like I got my 3 years. I'm a former world heavyweight champion. I main evented pay-per-views. I'm happy with my career. But it was nice to hear Steve say, there's a reason you were there. Not everybody could be a top guy, but you had a place because you could get guys over, and that's a skill in itself. Seriously, not everybody could be Stallone and Rocky. Somebody needs to do the job, and hey, if that's what it was, I made a nice living out of it. I made a nice career out of it. I got my run in my own. ECW was like the old AWA, like the third company back then. I was two-time tag champ, world heavyweight champion. I never thought I would have been a world heavyweight champion. I go down in the record books to this day as a world heavyweight champion. So you know what? That's the mark in me talking. So, I didn't do too bad for a young kid from Waterbury who's 44 years old and's got 24 years in the biz. Not too bad,
No. Yeah. So as you progressed in your career, one of the big things is always you were there when Slick was kind of running the show. What was your relationship, the partying? Would you get heat because you had some sort of relationship with those guys?
Oh, dude, it was instant. Literally, here's how it happened, and this is a funny story. I don't say this a lot because it kind of never comes up, but I was 19 years old when I signed with the company, so I couldn't rent my own car. It wasn't a financial thing. Back then, you had to be like 25 to rent a car. I had a license and shit, but back then, rules are a little different now. But so I traveled with the agents, like Chief J. Strongbow, Rene Goulet, Tony Gurria, Pat Patterson, those guys, and we're all wonderful mentors and stuff. But Scott Hall said to me, he goes, kid, you're going to get more heat hanging with the agents. He goes, you're coming with me, young boy. And that's how it happened. Scott just said, you're coming with me. Because he likes that. He likes to be the mentor role, because people did it for him. Like Kurt Hennig did it for him. Kurt and I actually got to work a bunch of times, and I got to know Kurt, God bless him, God rest his soul, quite well. And it was just, they could say, yeah, you part of the clique. I'm like, you know what? I don't have to say it. They know what happened. I'm not publicly like clique because they don't want to merchandise it. That's fine. That's my issue with Vince. And maybe they don't trust me because I've been kind of a hot mess with drugs and alcohol for a long time. So maybe they don't want to trust me with that. But, the guys know the truth. Shawn Michaels and I, hell, if you guys remember, in '99, I went to Texas when I was ECW Tag Team Champion for Shawn Michaels' Texas Wrestling Alliance when he ran the school. And there was a young man there by the name of Brian Danielson who was getting trained. And I came in for Shawn. I flew myself in. Shawn didn't pay me, let me stay at his house for a week. And of course I love, Shawn's my hero, one of my heroes. We got to do special things like that. Like shit half the things people don't even know about. Like someday I would love to write a beautiful book to detail all the cool stuff that happened to me. You know, just dropping. I didn't know Bryan Danielson was going to be who he is today. You know, and I don't even really remember meeting. He remembers meeting me. I don't remember meeting him because I was just incredible, and he was just coming into wrestling school. You know, so and I was just there as my buddy Sean. I'm trying to help him out because he was trying to do a local TV show through his wrestling school and have a little weekly gig for his students. And I came in as I got a little bit of cred now. I'm an ECW tag team champion. And I came in and worked his promotion for free. And then when Sean just gave me, I'll go stay at my house for a week or two. And that's how it, stuff like that happened. Dude, I have so many of those cool moments and stories that sometimes get forgotten, because you do so much in these years and you forget, but we really did a lot in history. I was part of a lot of historically cool stuff, even though I may not have been the guy on the poster. Again, go back and listen to Stone Cold's podcast with me. He gave me credit for helping him develop Stone Cold. And I know that sounds absurd and outrageous. But what I mean by that is I allowed him to go out there and, there's a trust factor. And he goes, kid, he was still the ringmaster. He wasn't Stone Cold yet. But he goes, if you allow me to, because, we have to ask permission. He goes, I'm going to try to make fun of you. I'm going to try to, we might go 15 minutes or I might just kick and stun you. I don't know which one it's going to be. We're going to improv it. We're going to feel the people and we're going to go from there. And he said it to this day. If you go back and listen to his podcast with me, he will admit that I helped in some way develop. I allowed him to, you know what I mean? I gave him I opened up to him so you can make fun of me. I gave him you know what I'm saying? I gave to him. Where some guys won't do that. Guys are selfish. Guys are like, nope, that don't work for me because you're going to make me look like a tool or you're going to make me look bad in the ring. I was open to him. I said, Steve, this is your time. People are starting to get behind you. I'll just follow you and you do what you do. And there would be times we would go for opening match, 15, 20 minutes, tackle, drop downs, doing all kinds of shit. And there would be times where we'd literally walk around the ring, he'd do his gimmick, he'd go to do the handshake, leg kick, stunner, and done. But I didn't know which one I was getting any night of the week. We could have been going 20. And there was one time where Jake Roberts was managing me, mentoring me at the time. And literally, and it's one of those lores that very few people talk about, but Steve will admit it, Austin will admit it. He gave me 20 vertical suplexes in a row.
Jesus.
Well, because the ring, we're doing these, they do it in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And there are these, it's called medley tents, like the music tents. So you had to use a smaller ring. You couldn't use the big WWE ring. So they'd bring in these small bouncy rings. So it was almost like bumping on a pillow. You know what I'm saying? So it was it wasn't hurting me. I could have suplexed my mother 20 times and she wouldn't have got hurt. But it was just the fun part was you would get up, God damn it, Jake, should I do it one more time? And of course Jake's trying to do oh no, don't do it, but yeah, do it, trying to rib me, And there goes another one, and there goes another one, and we literally did 20 vertical suplexes. And the rings were so small, we had to do it corner to corner, because you couldn't go the other way. That's how small the rings were. But they were neat. It was like landing on a pillow. So it was super fun, you wanted to bump at those rings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a lot of fun, a lot of good times, man. That's how I came up, dude. I came up very old school. I got the pleasure to work with a lot of wonderful people, and I learned so much, man. I learned so much. That's why now in my life, at 44, semi-retired, pretty much, It's hard to stay away because I miss it. I miss it a lot. Um, my sobriety and my recovery has been an issue, and that's obviously the focus of the film we're doing. And I've not been in a safe place. I talked to Dallas Page today. I talked to Sean Waltman today. They're worried about me. Um, I had a drink today. I went to a AA meeting, but then I had to have a drink because I'm a little shaky. I think I'm withdrawing a little because I think I partied a little bit too much and I took it over the line. So, it is scary, but again, it's being all honest. I'm not trying to hide anything. I think honesty is the best policy because if you're saying it, then nobody could call you out on it, right? I'm admitting my faults. But I'm getting better. I'm getting help. I got good people looking out for me. Dallas literally texts me 3 times a day and asks me if I'm doing my DDP yoga breathing exercises. Because they actually do work, believe it or not. They're supposed to do something for your endorphins mentally. It's like basically like a 10-second breathe in, but a 20-second exhale. It's supposed to like help take toxins out of your body. I don't know, but Dallas fucking hits me up did you do yours? And I'm literally, when I'm off the phone with your podcast, I'm going to call Dallas and say, I did mine. Cause he'll kill me if I didn't, but, hey man, we're just trying to keep it honest and, just a real portrayal of, what it's like for a mid-card guy, going through the life, the struggles, I'm a family man, married 23 years to the same young lady, beautiful young lady, 3 beautiful children. But, I made a lot of mistakes in life too. So, it's hard to be put out there like that, and sometimes Kid yells at me, Sean, Waltman. He's like, get off Twitter. You're killing, like you're saying shit you shouldn't be saying. But to me, it's like some kind of therapy to just say things that are on my mind. Like I might hear a lyric of a song and text it, and then people think it's like some cryptic, I'm going to hurt myself text. No, I'm just listening to a song. I thought it was a cool lyric. It's like how I'm feeling right now, and that's the world we live in today. But I'm going to throw the show back at you because I've been talking my ass off. So,
Yeah.
Any questions?
Oh, I definitely appreciate it. What I really wanted to get into is obviously your main event run like in ECW, because I know like it was like I discovered ECW as like a teenager and I was like, this product is so different. I thought you guys were literally killing each other when I watched ECW. I was like, so talk a little bit about that. Did you have a hesitation going in like, what the hell?
Oh,
is
yeah.
this?
I was scared to death. But then I realized once I was in, dude, they hit way harder in WWE. And I know you cannot possibly understand it. I can't. I know now the tricks of the trade. Terry Funk taught me a lot. Tommy Dreamer said gimmick. How to do the supercell and make it look, like there's literally times where I'll call for help, and I'm not even hurt at all, but I'll pretend like I'm dying in there, like I need medical attention, a little bit and that's the thing is we were so over the top with the theatrics that people really bought in. And you go up to Raw today, they're going to beat you. They hit hard. We didn't hit that hard in ECW. Me and Dreamer, I'm sorry, I don't know what matches you guys saw, but our Stairway to Hell, we used to clip the barbs. Okay? Terry Funk and Sabu did their one barbed wire match. They did it for real. So after they did it for real, they were the sacrificial lambs. So then we could kind of work it, if you know what I'm saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They did it for the younger guys, did it for like those guys in the early days did it for real. So when I got Dreamer and I got Sandman and Shane Douglas and Sabu and Terry, we were just playing because then we already got the fans. They already believed. So then we could work it. You know, it almost took somebody to be that sacrifice, like Mikey Whipwreck, for example. He got his ass handed to him for real. So when I got Mikey a couple years later, it was all a work because he took the beatings for real. So now people are assuming that it's all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a really weird dichotomy and a really weird dynamic, but you know, it took those renegades, those guys to really go out there and to kind of take one for the team to then allow us to completely work it. You know, when I got Sandman, I was scared to death of him. He ended up being one of my best friends, and we had the easiest matches. And and I'm like, this drunk is gonna fucking slap his fucking, kill me with this stick. He barely would touch me. He barely touched me. We'd be laughing all the way to the bank. You know, New Jack, somebody who I saw 2 weeks, or last week I saw Jack. Yeah, I was so scared of him. And I get in the ring with him, he's a pussycat. Because he already made his legend. Do you understand?
Yeah. So basically, you're saying that, you had those guys like, Sabu and Funk who set the tone to give the people the feel that it was really real. But then everybody that came after it was, hey man, we don't need to do that craziest stuff.
We all smartened up. We all smartened up real quick. You know, we smartened up quick. We're like, nobody knows how hard we're hitting each other, guys. Like Sabu's spike at first was the scariest thing ever. Seeing that insane asylum coming at you with a spike. But he was a friend and I trusted him, and it became grand theatrics. And I almost hate giving away the mythology because it takes away from it. But it was different, man. And Terry Funk would always tell me, here was Terry Funk's greatest thing. God damn it, Justin. Please, and Terry's putting me over with a super kick. Like, the great Terry Funk is gonna lose to me with a simple super kick. Please, Justin, damn it, please don't go out there and hurt the old man. That son of a bitch would hit you as hard as he could, and I would barely put a fingernail on him. But he made you feel like he knew how to work you too. Like, don't hurt the old man. And he's coming in with those he's clubbering you, dude. And one time I got so excited. This was Ring of Honor. I got to work with Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty was our surprise partner. It was me and Loke and DeVito as the Carnage crew, and Dusty was our special surprise guest. Like 4,000 or 5,000 people at the rec center in New Jersey. And and Dusty's coming in to help my team, but I was so excited, I fed him for an elbow. He's on my team, and I'm feeding him for an elbow. Because, I just want to take an American Dream elbow. Yeah, ridiculous, dude. I'm like, and he goes, you're on my team, kid. You're on my team, kid. I'm like, just do something. I don't hit me. Do something, please. I just want to get hit by the Dream, It's just, it's those magic moments that I'm afraid won't happen anymore. And that's why the nostalgia is so great today. And I think, the Hall of Fames and all that stuff is so great because those things won't happen again. Those moments will never happen again. Wrestling now is too safe. And they hit harder today than we ever did back in the day. So these guys are really pushing the envelope in their own way. They're really trying to work really hard, but sometimes it's not how hard you hit, it's the emotion and it's the magic. And there's not that many people that could do the magic. The Flairs are gone, the Dusties are gone, the guys that made it special are gone. The Undertaker's even though Mark comes out once in a while, once a year, those are the legends that we'll never forget. but the torch was never passed. Like, one thing I resent, and I'll tell you real quick because this is important actually, I resent that I never got my spot. Like, I got it in ECW for a minute, but what I mean by that is I was always the young boy, and the old timers stuck around too long, never passed the torch, and now it's even too late for me, and they're still like kind of hanging around. And it's like, where's that torch to be passed? Where's the next Daniel Bryan? Where's the next whoever they are? You know, whoever the next, you know, thing is, whoever that's going to be, you know? And that's hard, you know, and they've painted themselves into a corner because the veterans still draw. The Nashes, the Halls, those cool guys, the Hunters, the Takers, they still matter, where the other guys, you know, they try to do it with Braun, and, you know, Brock, of course, is special, but, you know what I'm saying? It's like we never developed a strong enough core. And then, unfortunately, guys get so beaten up like the Samoa Joes, right? When it's finally Joe's chance to have his program with John Cena, his body's already so broken down from Ring of Honor and NXT. When he gets to the dance, what has he got left? A year? You know?
Yeah.
You know, these guys are already killing themselves. You know, like all these, that's what scares me, is these young kids like Matt and Nick. I love the Bucks, man. You know, I literally asked all of them. Kenny Omega, I don't know him, but I know Matt and Nick. Cody, I don't know that well, but I asked all of them if I could do a Bullet Club version of Just Incredible shirt. And it basically is the Aldo jockstrap with two Singapore canes, mimicking the Bullet Club logo. And they all said, of course, you know, but I asked their permission. I just didn't go ahead with it. Like, you know, I wanted to show them my respect, because they're the young guys now leading the business, you know. They're doing special things. And they all said, yes, sir, of course, you know. And I'm like, you know, don't yes, sir me. Thank you for allowing me, you know. And, dude, that's like the hottest seller. I like, Pro Wrestling Tees have sold 50 in less than a couple of days, because it's what they're doing. If Vince was smart, he would throw, I don't care what it would be, 10 million, 15 million, throw it all at those guys and bring in, that would be like the next invasion. If you brought the real Bullet Club to WWE one night, whatever it takes. Yeah. Good podcast. Anyways, my time is up. I have to drive my children to the movies, but we could do a part 2. Doesn't have to end today. We could definitely get together and do a part 2.
We definitely
if that's
could.
cool. Huh?
I definitely would appreciate a part 2, man. I really appreciate you coming on and giving me at least, you know, 35 minutes. I'm glad that you're doing better in your health, and we'll talk a little bit more.
Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And again, let's do this. Let's finish this. Do another version. I'll come on next week if you want. You know, we'll finish this up. You know?
Absolutely.
I'd be honored, dude. You have my number, okay? Thanks, brother.
Pleasure.
So it was a privilege, a real privilege to have Just Incredible on as a guest. He was one of my favorite ECW originals. I found some great stories out just from that. I mean, I didn't realize how many guys' first TV match he had, from Batista to Randy Orton, and I didn't realize how much he helped Stone Cold really get over in those days. And Stone Cold, he said Stone Cold had a lot of high praise. Definitely go check out that interview he did on Stone Cold's podcast. That's a really good one. But it was so great to hear that and hear about some of the different stories in ECW, and just hear about everything he did up and down the road and what he's been up to now, and just great conversation with Just Incredible. So as I mentioned, going to do a little Backlash preview here, as Backlash is this Sunday on the WWE Network. It is the first co-branded pay-per-view, they're calling it. Obviously, we had the big four, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, but now all the pay-per-views would be co-branded. No more Raw pay-per-views, SmackDown pay-per-views, and they're going to have a co-branded pay-per-view from now on. So I'm going to give kind of a little preview here of Backlash, as it is this Sunday, May 6th, on the WWE Network. So, little snippet of audio issues there, trying to edit my best. I'm here Tuesday night recording this, and the electricity went out here in Orangeville, California. So I apologize for that. But so Backlash is this Sunday. As of right now, there are 8 scheduled matches for this co-branded pay-per-view for Raw and SmackDown. So I'm going to go through them, give you a little bit of preview, and we'll see what happens this Sunday. So it's a weird pay-per-view because some of these matches were made before the Superstar shakeup, so you have some interpromotional matches, and it's kind of weird how things are going on this, but we'll kind of see how this all plays out. So announced on this past Monday that it would be Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Interesting, kind of just seems like, it's kind of a filler match, kind of a time pattern for both Bobby and Braun. I think after seeing Braun win the greatest Royal Rumble match last week, that he's definitely the guy. I think the Roman experiment is probably over, and Braun is the guy. I mean, we saw this past Monday, Kevin and Sami were in their hometown of Montreal, and Braun got the bigger pop still because Braun is massively over. So I think this is just to get Braun on the pay-per-view, and we're going to kind of see, after this, we're going to see Braun and Brock being built up. Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. Interesting to me that Big Cass was brought back, and there really seems to be pushing him pretty hard. It's going to be interesting dynamic because Daniel Bryan is a smaller guy. You always got the concern about him getting hurt now that he, coming back from the head injury, but I think he'll work a safe match with Big Cass. Kind of hard to tell if this is just a holding pattern for Daniel Bryan to get to The Miz. I think this is a case of both guys need the win because this is Daniel Bryan's first kind of singles match on a pay-per-view since coming back, and Big Cass's first match kind of being back since injury. I think this is a classic situation where you're going to get Big Cass, beating the crap out of Daniel Bryan for most of the match. Daniel Bryan kind of rolls him up, gets the win. One guy goes over, one guy gets over, and I think that you might see a series of matches between these two. I think they're really trying to build up Cass as a credible heel and big time. His promo ability has gotten a lot better. I'm still, not necessarily sold on him, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, coming out of NXT, you didn't think that Carmelo was going to be the most successful member of that act between Enzo, Big Cass, and Carmelo. I would have never thought that Carmelo would be the one to win a world championship first out of the three of them. Think about it. Enzo was cruiserweight champion. Everybody but Cass has won a title. So interesting to see what they do with this match, but I think that's kind of the realm they're going with, the big man, and Daniel Bryan works the best when he's the underdog. So I think it's a good dynamic. Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe. This is interesting because, Joe's on SmackDown now, and Roman, has just not been getting over. I think, whatever WWE does, he's not going to get over. And this is a hard one to call because Joe, you want to keep Joe looking strong, but at the same time, Roman hasn't won in how long. He's been, just being booed out of the building. They tried to christen him the next guy by beating Brock. So hard really to count on this one. I'd like to see Joe win. I'm very intrigued what they're going to do with Joe on SmackDown, especially after, seeing on Tuesday's edition of SmackDown, Joe coming out and having a somewhat confrontation with AJ Styles. That has me super intrigued. Two TNA guys, and I think Joe on the mic right now is on fire, and I think he's putting some passion, and I think he's due for a title run. I really think I'll talk about here AJ versus Shinsuke, but I think we're going to see Joe and Styles for that title, and Joe's going to be the guy running with that title for most of the summer, if not most of the year, as a big bad heel, and eventually somebody will beat him for that title. Then we get Carmella versus Charlotte. Hard to call on this one. Carmella, cashing in the Money in the Bank and being the women's champion. Charlotte getting her rematch. Somehow I see a screwy finish where Carmella either gets herself counted out or disqualified or some outside interference for that to happen. I just don't see Carmella beating Charlotte clean in the ring in a clean finish. She's a heel. Her she's nowhere near the level of Charlotte in terms of her in-ring work. So will be interesting on that. You definitely have the side story of, the Iconics and Asuka. Becky Lynch is there. You also have Absolution kind of doing their thing. So there's a lot of side stories here that could affect this match, definitely. Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. Straight up, going to be straight up. I think it'll be very similar to their WrestleMania match. I think Nia gets the win, probably in a pretty convincing fashion. I think they need to get Alexa. I was surprised Alexa didn't move over to SmackDown in the Superstar Shakeup. I think they need to keep Alexa out of that title picture for a while. She's been, from when she came up on the main roster through SmackDown and her time here on Raw, she's been in the title picture pretty much the entire time. I think it's, you got to do something else with her, get her in something going somewhere else, because I don't think keeping her in the title picture right now is doing her any favors, and it's not going to do Nia any favors with her title reign. Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton for the U.S. title. I think it's just going to be a good match. This is interesting because originally it was supposed to be Jinder defending against Randy, but Jeff Hardy being the U.S. champion now. So it's going to be interesting on that front. I think pretty much you're going to get Jeff Hardy retaining. I think it'll be a good, solid match, but I don't think anything's going to be really shocking here. I don't know if they're building a Randy Jeff Hardy feud, or they're going to insert The Miz kind of like they did. You've got the third wheel, Shelton Benjamin. Could he get involved? So you could see something there, but I think it'll just be a straight-ahead match and Jeff win. The two matches I'm actually looking forward to the most on this pay-per-view is Seth Rollins versus The Miz for the IC title. Seth's been on fire lately. Seth's getting huge pops. Seth Rollins' work rate is ridiculous. I mean, he can have a match. The match he had with Finn this past Monday, the ladder match he had last Friday at the Greatest Royal Rumble, he is just phenomenal. I mean, you could call him a modern-day Shawn Michaels. He is literally the show stealer, the show stopper. I mean, he has great matches with everybody, and he does some incredible things that the feats of strength are second to none. So it's really, really incredible. Obviously Seth's gonna win. I don't think they're gonna, they have no way. If The Miz wins, how do you get the U.S. title back to Raw? So I think it's pretty clear cut in the winner there, but it's going to be a good match. The Miz has improved his work. I think you got a great face-heel dynamic. So Seth and The Miz is going to be a great match. Definitely could see if they were given, 15 minutes, they could steal a show. This could be the best match of the night. So going to be interesting to see that. And then it was announced last night on SmackDown that there would be no disqualification. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship. Their third match now in the last month, essentially. They fought at WrestleMania. They fought last Friday at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And now they're going to fight here at Backlash for the WWE title. No disqualification. I'm wondering if this is the blow-off. Making it no DQ means you have to have a winner. So, to me, my gut feeling going in was no DQ. Okay, Shinsuke is finally going to win. He's going to be able to cheat to win, and it count as part of the rules. But with Joe coming out on SmackDown and kind of maybe planting the seeds for something down the road, I think AJ maybe banishes Shinsuke. Shinsuke can go and run, I think, with something else. I don't know what, but I think, they've done a good job with this heel. I just don't think the WWE is going to put their prestigious WWE Championship with Shinsuke. His limited mic ability, even though he is a heel, WWE is a babyface company. So I think what they're going to do is AJ's going to this is going to be the blow off. AJ's going to win, and we're going to, move on. And I think the big program for SmackDown, personally, I think if I was booking SmackDown, coming out of this, I think with the Samoa Joe seed planet, I think the big thing that you have to do is AJ's the champion. I think you run with AJ and Joe. I think maybe the next pay-per-view, Money in the Bank. I think you have a scenario where Joe beats him at Money in the Bank, or they have some type of feud where you get it to Joe beating him at SummerSlam, wherever it is along the line. And then I have a scenario where you got to give Joe a lengthy title run. And he's just decimating everybody. And then you build towards, kind of a Ring of Honor retro thing in the WWE where it's Daniel Bryan and it's Samoa Joe, because they can have classics. They've had some classics in Ring of Honor. And Daniel Bryan wins in the back. I would have The Miz win the Money in the Bank this year. As soon as Daniel Bryan wins that WWE Championship, Joe or whoever gives him a beatdown, boom, The Miz cashes in, and you have Daniel Bryan chase The Miz for the WWE Championship, and that's your SmackDown. One of your main events for WrestleMania 35 is Daniel Bryan versus The Miz for the WWE Championship, and I think then in New York, you have Daniel Bryan win the WWE Championship, have another kind of feel-good moment for him a year after coming back. He wins the WWE Championship. This time, he can be given a proper run, and they'll not have to relinquish the title due to injury, any of that. I think that is, if I was booking SmackDown, that's where I would go after this. On the flip side, I think, as I mentioned, Braun leaning more towards being the face. I think coming out of this pay-per-view, you've got to have a challenger for Brock. Brock is not going to hold that title till SummerSlam. I don't see it. I think the next big pay-per-view for WWE is next month, Money in the Bank. If anything, I would book it that Braun comes out and says, hey, I won the greatest Royal Rumble. I want Brock Lesnar. You go Braun and Brock at Money in the Bank, and Braun is hot. Put the title on him now. And you can use Brock for other things for an attraction. The Braun and Bobby Lashley match, whatever it is. I just hope they don't, they slow burn with Braun, but they don't slow burn it so much that it hurts him in the fact that we're going to wait till WrestleMania to crown Braun, because, for the last year, we knew it was going to be Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and it just took a lot out of it because we knew what that main event was going to be. I don't want them to do that in this scenario. Braun is hot. Pull the trigger on him. He's over with every demographic they have. Do it now. So, kind of that's the Backlash preview this Sunday on the WWE Network. So we'll see what happens, and we'll kind of give a little review next week. So going to be interesting. I'm going to make sure that since I have not been, because of my daytime schedule, been able to live tweet during Raw and SmackDown, definitely going to try to live tweet during the pay-per-view. So definitely, hopefully that'll work out. Once again, want to thank Justin Credible for coming on the show today. Fantastic guest, some great stories. Help him out. Go to Pro Wrestling Tees, order his t-shirt, help him fund that documentary so he can get it out to all of us amazing wrestling fans. He's a great, great dude. Support him in any way you can. If he's going to be at some type of Comic-Con or Legends convention, go up, say hi. He's a really personable guy, but help support him. Go to ProWrestlingTees.com and get a shirt, the Credible Club, so definitely do that. As well, support the podcast right here for the Rock and Wrestling Podcast. Go over on the Twitter, Nick's RW Podcast. Make sure to follow along. I will follow back. Tweet me, retweet me, anything like that. Help a brother out. Instagram, Rock and Wrestling Podcast. Give me a follow. I'll give you a follow back as well. Facebook, Nick's Rock and Wrestling Podcast. The email is the Rock and Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com. Over on YouTube, I did not get Del Wilkes' episode up yet. It will be up this weekend along with the Just Incredible episode. Sometimes the YouTube channel is delayed a little bit, but it should be up here in the coming days. So make sure you go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the Gmail. Send me anything. Let's talk wrestling. Let's talk rock and roll. Make sure you go over to prowrestlingtees.com/rock and wrestling podcast store to definitely help out. Get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself a tank top. If you do that, I will give you a shout out here on the podcast as well. Go to iTunes, hit that little subscribe button, listen on SoundCloud. If you go on iTunes, give me a review. I'll give you a shout out. I may even hook you up with a free t-shirt. So a reminder of next week. Next week, we're going to have Mansoor from the WWE's newest signee, Jarvis from Leatherby Jarvis Leatherby from Night Demon, the lead singer, on May 16th. And the following week after that, It Lives, It Breathes singer, the guys that did my theme song on here. So make sure you go on the social media, buy yourself a shirt, support Just Incredible, go get his shirt as well, support wrestling, support any podcasts out there. We will see you next week right here on the Rock and Wrestling Podcast.